All right, everyone, here we are in the Vicky 3 Academy here on We Play Games, and I'm Walker, and we're discussing custom unions today, because custom unions are one of those things that have kind of like blown up on Reddit, and they can be very powerful depending on how you use them, and so this video is kind of like geared towards allowing you to understand how to use them. So the first thing that you should probably understand, if you haven't seen the markets video, I would recommend checking that out, but if you don't have the time or the interest, then basically what a customs union does, it's a very, very, very special, extremely loose kind of subject relationship where there is still a central market that brings all of the goods together. And by creating this little relationship here, you're going to be bringing your markets together, bringing all of the sell and buy orders for the entire supply together. Now, when you do that, you are if you have overseas territories that are a part of it, you are going to need a lot of convoys to keep your port connections up and running. And so don't neglect the development of your shipping if you're going to be doing an awful lot of custom union stuff. But if you're the main person in charge, it's not even that complicated. It's almost always going to be useful to be adding stuff to your customs union, just because of combining your supply and demand. So if, for instance, we added the Netherlands, then we would end up with, oh, they would not accept this proposal, would not accept this proposal, would not accept this proposal. That's fine. We can fix that. We can fix that here in our debug tool just for educational purposes. But we can add these guys to our customs union. So what that'll do, let's just briefly take a look at the Belgian market, right? The Belgian market has all of these supplies. They've got tons of extra fertilizer. They've got a little bit extra steel. They've got extra meat. So they'll be bringing that in, but they have a demand for grain, a little bit of demand for furniture, demand for tools, and so we can look at our own supply and decide whether or not it makes sense to add that in. Obviously, it doesn't really help with the tools thing, but we do have an oversupply of grain anyway, so it wouldn't necessarily hurt. A little bit of extra oversupply on steel is never a bad thing. Tons of extra fertilizer is kind of obnoxious. Maybe we'll need to find a way to fix that, but that's okay. We'll just go ahead and add a customs union, and then we'll discuss how that's going to be useful for us as the overlord, right? So we're going to add Belgium as a member, and then it's going to add them without changing their color, because remember, this is a voluntary thing. So if they decide that they want to leave the customs union and join another country's customs union, they can, which is where like Prussia sometimes ends up in problems because they get ripped apart. But now we've added Belgium to our customs union. That's gonna have some impact. First of all, it's combining all of that stuff. Second of all, it is making it so that, sure, whatever. It means that now we do need a little bit of extra supply to get to Belgium. Where's our Flanders thing? There it is. So we have 100% market access simply because we do have access to enough ships to link everything up. And that's another thing that you can actually add via customs union if you need to, is shipping, right? If somebody has tons of extra convoys, that can be pretty helpful to pick them up. But by adding them, they have brought their stuff into our market, but similarly over in their market, their own stuff is different. And so let's just switch over to Belgium. Now all of a sudden their grain, rather than being up 8%, is down 20%. So that might have a meaningful impact on their standard of living for their lower pops. They also have a balance for tools that's a little more negative now, but that might mean that it might be appropriate for them to build up their own tools. And so what I want to tell you is that as a smaller nation, it can make a lot of sense for you to attach yourself to a larger nation temporarily, because it'll allow you to do some stuff, right? Like, let's see, now we are at 1.5 thousand, or 1.5 thousand sell orders on their iron, and 1.9 buy orders on their iron. So this stuff is a little expensive, but if you wanted to industrialize, if you wanted to use iron frame buildings, and you didn't have any iron at all or not enough iron, then it might make sense to join the British market or the French market, right? Like, let's who's a prime example for this sort of development? Like Venezuela, for instance. They literally start with no iron in their market, but on the other hand, they also don't start with a construction sector. Well, we can fix that. Fast build. Sure. You got 5 construction sectors, but we can't really switch over to iron because we don't have any iron, right? We have absolutely no iron. But if on the other hand we were a member of the British market, either because we were a protectorate or because we were a member of their custom union, then we would get access to all the resources that are available inside the British market. Which means that if we can just get the British to say yes, then we can switch all of those construction sectors over to iron frame buildings, which will allow us to dramatically increase our amount of construction that we can do. Right? All right. So are we? Did we get it? Are we part of the British market now? Yes, we are part of the British market now. So you can see we're part of the British market now. That means that all of our demand and all of our supply has been summed together. We have really inexpensive iron. We can go ahead and we can switch all of this. See, now it's only 9,000 instead of 20,000, and it's because we're part of the British market. Done, right? So what does that mean? What that means is, depending on how developed you are and how many resources you have internally, because that's also a really, really important factor here. If you do not have iron mines, and if you don't have iron, wood, and coal, if you don't have all 3 of those, Venezuela does, but some of these nations will not have all 3 of those. If you don't have all 3 of those, you kind of need to be a part of somebody else's market, or you need to expand into it. Like Liberia benefits enormously from being part of the American market because it benefits from all the resources there, and that allows you to develop a lot faster. So don't think that joining a customs union is necessarily a good or a bad thing. It's a tool in your toolbox. If you think that you can successfully latch on to one of these powerful European nations, leech off of their current supply to develop your own economy, make sure that you develop your economy also, like, not just in terms of integration to their society, but also independence from their society. So, like, if I were Portugal and I became a protectorate of Great Britain, not that you have to, I think Portugal is strong enough, but if you wanted to, you could. And then you'd want to develop inside of Great Britain, but you'd also want to develop out here. You'd want to secure yourself, like maybe steal the Dutch East Indies, or puppet Sokoto, or retake Brazil, something like that that allows you to have your own internal market. So that way, especially on the main industrial stuff, you want to make sure you have coal, iron, wood, tools, and steel, because you get the steel out of the coal and the iron, but you want to make sure that you have all that stuff going. Probably also want to have engines so you can build rail, but you want to be able to build up your own economy pretty well, because it's going to be, you can't really track it in here, so you do need to be aware that whenever you try to leave a customs union or break a protectorate, your economy is going to suffer a bit of a shock. So there is a meaningful downside to that parasitizing, but again, depending on how developed you are, it might be worth it. I think that typically it's going to be strongest with nations that have a fairly large population, but not necessarily resources. I think all of the fairly high population nations do have some access. Siam, for instance, that is not nearly enough coal or iron. So like Siam probably would benefit a lot from signing up for somebody else's market, just to gain access to the resources necessary for industrialization, so that way they could then subjugate Southeast Asia and Indonesia and then go around and declare independence. I mean, that's a pretty straightforward line, I think, and definitely one that I think will be pretty strong. So let me know if that answered the questions you guys have about customs unions. I know that there's a lot of details involved, but I think that once you conceptualize the value of it when it's strong, which is, it is strong sometimes. It's just, it's strong in a very narrow band of outcomes. Like, you don't want to be signing up to the British market as Sweden. Like, that's just subjugating yourself to the British for no reason. You can develop your economy plenty well on your own. But some of them, like Siam for sure, I think, and probably Korea, although Korea does have coal and iron. There are some starts where you need resources that you do not currently have, and that's what a customs union is for. Okay, take care.